Bonjour à tous, bienvenue pour ce premier épisode de l'entretien. Pour ce premier épisode-là, nous pouvons faire dans le cadre du festival Mama Jazz 2024. L'année dernière, nous avons la chance de couvrir le festival-là pendant tout le mois d'avril, côté thématique qui vive l'harmonie. Nous avons trouvé plusieurs groupes locaux et internationaux performer, notamment le pianiste Han Binli et le duo Thomas Boura et Juan Gizi, un Mauricien, mais aussi plusieurs artistes locaux, dont une formation de jeunes qui mettent du talent en jazz et en musique créative de l'avant. Pour cette année-là, Mama Jazz retenait le thème vibration, l'unité, que tu peux poursuivre ce quête d'ouverture à différents publics. Dans sa quête-là, il y a du coup les dimanches, les Mama Picnic, que il y a un rendez-vous familial, gratuit, que tout le monde est invité pour une performance live et aussi une performance avec un DJ pour justement répondre à demandes divers publics. Aussi, dans le cadre de Mama Jazz, l'année-là, nous retrouvons un grand concert qui peut avoir lieu dans le Coda Art Center. Et le premier artiste qui peut venir performer dans le Coda Art Center pour un grand concert, c'est Tanya Yanouli. I've said it right. Tanya Yanouli qui est avec nous aujourd'hui. Donc Tanya Yanouli est un pianiste grec, un compositeur, un improviser et un band leader. Il fait piano depuis l'âge de 5 ans. Et il participe à plusieurs grands concerts, il fait 5 albums qui sont internationalement reconnus. Donc c'est un maestro en piano qui est avec nous aujourd'hui pour l'entretien là. Donc Tanya lui aussi fait la musique pour des films, pour des vidéos et pour des documentaires. Il joue dans plusieurs festivals dans l'Europe et partout à travers le monde. Et il participe à un projet assez fou qui consiste à faire une improvisation de 10 heures de temps dans cratère un volcan actif. So, Tanya, a few years ago you played in the active volcano of Niziros Island. How was this daring project put in place and what came through your mind when accepting it?
Well, this was an initiative by Six Dogs, a club in Athens, a music club, and Onassis Foundation. So they invited 10 improvisers to go in the crater of the active volcano of Niziros and make this setup where we improvised in a full moon of August from the sunset till dawn next day, so 10 hours, around 10 hours. And it was an amazing experience that I will never ever forget because this place is like surreal completely. I mean, it's an active volcano when there's places that there's still vapor coming out, this sulfur smell, and it's quite unique, all the place. So even when we went the previous day for the sound check, it was totally magic. And actually, the idea of creating a trio with the oud came to me at this place. Because one of the musicians there was playing the oud, and at the sound check, he took out the instrument to make some warming up. And I heard this fantastic sound in this fantastic scenery, and it was like, where am I? What am I listening to? This is totally magic. So this concert was very unique, and
when talking about the uniqueness of the concert, when playing in front of an audience, musicians feel the energy of the public and get inspired by it. What sort of inspiration or energy drove you for 10 hours of improvisation inside an active crater?
Well, you didn't play for 10 hours constantly. You needed to make a break because for health reasons you cannot stay 10 hours there. You had to stop and go up and get some fresh air because you need some fresh air. Even when tourists go to this place, they are not allowed to stay more than 30 minutes. So, but the complete setup with the audience actually was walking around this whole place. They were not standing or sitting in a place. And depending on where they were standing, they could hear something else. So some of them were dancing, some of them were in a trance mode. It was really so unique. Nothing I ever done, like that ever again.
And what did you feel inside the crater when playing?
First of all, it was a huge space, and you get this feeling of being part of this really huge set and being in the volcano, you know, and thinking, okay, now anything can happen. You know, what if there's an explosion right now? You also have this thought in your mind, you know.
You had this sense of danger then.
Of course, you still have it because it's still active, you know. But apart from that, it's like being part of a bigger thing, you know. It's like beyond, you know, this material world. It was like a universal, you know, experience in a way.
Last year for Mama Jazz, we had the chance to interview the pianist Tomasz Bura. He said that improvisation is like, quote, a touch of God, where all what you have learned in music comes in play in one instant. What's your view on improvisation?
Well, Thomas said it quite well, I think. For me, improvisation is like composing in the minute. So you cannot control it. Maybe you have some preparation before, but when you're actually doing that, maybe anything is different. You know, if you try to control it or think with your mind, it will not work. So yes, it's like doing something and going with the flow and connecting with something.
Could you say that your body is not yours at this moment?
Yes, sort of. If you try to put logic inside, it will not work. You know, you have to be part of something bigger and go with the flow.
And all the years of having learned music, they really stand forward when doing an improvisation, isn't it?
Yes, this is your background. This is my background, and you have your, you know, your, let's say, weapons. You know that, you know, all the things that made you the musician you are now, but you don't think in a musical logic way at this moment. It's when you play alone, it's even more unique. When you play with other musicians, it's like also communicating. Yeah.
You started playing piano at 5 years old. Then you achieved a master in agriculture. Mm-hmm. How does music and studies come together?
Well, I studied in the Agricultural University of Athens mainly because my parents insisted that I make some university studies. Yeah. You know,
your parents are scientists and
yes.
researchers.
Yes, my father was a doctor and my mother is a pharmacist. So they both come, you know, from the scientific environment. So of course they wanted for me to have a more structured education and a safer future. You know, because being a musician is not actually the safest work one can do. But actually I never practiced this job. So I made it in the end. I got my diploma, and at the time it was really difficult because agriculture studies are not easy. You know, it needs attendance, it needs for you to be there each day because you have to attend laboratories, you know. So at the point, I felt like I was doing a double life, you know. Up to, you know, until the afternoon, I was in the university, in the lab, or in the field, or in the farm, and afterwards I was going to the conservatory until late in the evening, and it was like, what am I doing now? Yeah.
Is there some sort of discipline that stands out in music that you have been using during your studies?
Absolutely. I mean, I don't regret doing it because I got some experience from this, as you say, not only discipline, but I think when you have been through that, your mind works in a more structured way, you know, more scientific way, let's say it in this way. And I think it was a useful experience.
And how was the transition from the background of classical music to jazz and creative music nowadays?
Well, actually, I was always improvising since I was a kid on my piano, even before I knew what improvisation or jazz is. And this is the procedure I still follow. You know, when I want to start creating new music, I always sit on my piano. But actually, the moment I realized I'm really interested in this kind of music happened when I was a teenager, and I started exploring some albums from ECM and some Keith Jarrett albums, and then I thought, this is really nice, I like the sound very much, and slowly I got into jazz. And of course, during the conservatory years, we formed some free improvisation bands, you know, with other students of the of the conservatory, and we had some workshops in improvisation, and this was the vehicle to go into it more consciously. Yeah.
Classical music, jazz, and creative music are not usually listened by a large group of public. If you have to initiate someone to jazz or classical music, what would you do for them to be able to understand what is being played?
So you mean what I would make them listen to, like some kind of album that it would be nice that they listen, or talk to them, like telling them what?
Maybe when you yourself you're playing the piano, what sort of music would you play for them to catch them and then make them stay there and understand what is jazz and creative music?
Well, I mean, for me, it's very difficult to make a tabel on my music, because for me, music is one. I don't put a tabel and say, okay, this is classical now, this is contemporary, or this is jazz. For me, music is one, and either it's good or it's bad, or either it's interesting or it's boring. At least it's how I feel music and understand music. So I would not introduce them with big speeches or say that this is something really now special or intellectual or something like that. Because I have understood that music can reach you no matter what your background is or your experience with music. And when people say sometimes, yes, but I'm not sure if I understood this music, I don't have experience on this music, I don't understand these things, I'm always saying them, you don't need to have a background or a special education or something like that. Either it reaches you or not. It's that simple, because music goes directly in the heart, doesn't go in the brain first. This is not how it works with music.
You talk about going to the heart. In a previous interview, you said that collaborators need to have the same commitment as I do. That is passion and enthusiasm. You published like 4 albums in 2012, 2015, 2018, and 2020 with Rattle Records, and all these albums were with collaborators. Mm-hmm. What have you found in them which make you want to work with them and go all the way to do an album with them?
Well, my first album with Paulo Chagas was a duo, and it started very, very without planning it. We were exchanging some improvisations, and then we said, why we don't make an album together? I didn't plan it at this time. But later, with my second album, with my ensemble, or with my trio, it was intended, to be music for this project, because at the point I felt like I need to compose music for my own ensembles. Reva, on the other hand, which was it is a very unique album. It's my duo with the New Zealander musician Rob Thorne. Rob is of Maori origin, and he plays all the Maori traditional instruments, which is quite unique because he plays shells, seashells or woods or stones. And this was a unique experience because we went in the studio for 2 days. I have made some preparation, but when you go there and you understand that you cannot trust any preparation because the guy's playing seashell or stones, what preparation? And then we went completely free, and it was really, really a nice experience, which put me also more deep in improvisation.
When creating with passion, there are emotions which go along. How do you explain this strange science, if I can say so, where the audience can feel what the artist has put or conveyed in his work?
Well, the artist says a story, this is his story, but what the listener receives back is based on the listener's story. So I may say my story, but I hope that the audience find and listen something into it that is connecting with them and their personality and their history and their emotions. So it's a double-way thing. It needs both ways in order to work.
And is it I think it's more difficult to convey emotions through piano, or is it Just as
For me, it's not difficult because I think, the piano is my instrument, of course, but I feel like the piano is such a rich instrument. You can make a whole universe out of the piano, because you can make so many sounds. It's not the same, I feel, it's not the same like playing, I don't know, maybe the flute, for example. The piano has endless possibilities, so I think it's easier for me. Yeah.
And after 4 albums, you released in 2023 Solo, your first solo album. Why did it take you so long
Yeah.
for the release of the first solo album?
Firstly, because I was too much focused on project music, my band's music first, the ensemble, then the trio, and we were starting to have more concerts, and I was busy with that. But this is one reason. I think the main reason was that I didn't feel ready for it, because playing solo and engaging the audience for more than an hour, it's something really difficult. It needs a lot of effort. It needs a lot of not only physical effort, first of all, because it's like running a marathon. You are alone on stage, and you need to keep the interest, and then you are completely exposed at this time, and anything is shown at this moment. Either you are a good musician, or you have something interesting to say, or you just don't have anything to say, or or even worse, you cannot have the technique to play. Anything is exposed, so you cannot fake anything on stage. So of course this was something that took me some time to get over, maybe this fear of exposing myself so much. But after some concerts starting in 2020, which is the year that I actually had my first real solo concert after my diploma years. It was in Germany, at the Enjoy Jazz Festival. And then I realized this is something I want always to do. I don't want ever to leave this solo playing. It's very important for me. So after this, I made some concerts, and of course, naturally, it came a time that I went in the studio to record.
And you said that it is more difficult for women to be recognized in music. What are the difficulties you had to face as a woman to be able to, nowadays, go around the world and play music and earn your living through music?
Well, first of all, when being a woman on it's music in general, but also jazz world it's mainly dominated by men, and it's women in this field are more rare, and they are mainly singers. So when I say sometimes I'm a musician, and people almost always ask, "Are you singing?" I said, no, I'm not singing. I'm a pianist and a composer. So I find it more difficult from my experience that you need to make more effort to convince, about what you want to do, about what music you want when you work in a band. I feel that I have to put more effort to convince my collaborators that this is the way we should go, and this is the way we should do it. And I have the impression that if I was a man, it would be much easier. They would accept it without a second word. But no, and I mean, apart from that, for some people, women, me included, are still invisible. There are some festivals even now that they don't consider at all inviting a female artist, because for them it doesn't exist, this thing, So it is much more difficult, yeah.
And the recognition, one of the recognition came in 2023 when with the new International Talent for the Year by Musica Jazz Italian magazine, isn't it?
Yes.
So how did you feel when earning this recognition?
It was, of course, I was very happy and very honored, because this is a poll, a critics poll, that it's very important and it's very old. It's 40 years old, and some really huge names all these previous years in this list actually then became, really had a good career in jazz, So when I saw my name there, first in the list, I was really honored, yeah.
In 2016, you said the worst thing in Greece is the general sense of disappointment on the verge of depression. Do you still feel this way in 2024 after the crisis with the COVID and the recent wars all
Yeah.
around the world?
Actually, no. I mean, 2016 was the time when really we had this deep economic crisis in Greece, and we went some tough years there. But things in Greece now are starting to get better. You know, tourism is going really high, and this is always helpful. I think many things could be done for the arts, you know, in a better way. Still, they are not done as they should be, but this general feeling of depression is not longer as it was there.
What sort of things could be done to the arts?
What sort of?
You said that many things could be done to the arts.
Yeah.
So what sort of things could be done?
First of all, I mean, Greece is one of the few countries that doesn't have a music export office like many European countries. You know, when you are, and I don't speak about being a Norwegian from Norway, you know, that these people can travel for free. You know, if you are an artist, a touring artist, they pay for your touring or whatever. But even other countries, they have some funds for supporting musicians. And in Greece, this is not the case. We don't have even the mentality of supporting an artist who is going beyond the borders of the country. They don't think in this way. So anything that can be like a support mainly comes from private organizations, which is quite rare because Greece is a small country, it's not a very big country. So we have still a lot of way to go.
And so Wednesday you'll be performing at the Codois Art Center for the Grand Concert of Mama Jazz. What can we expect for your show on Wednesday?
So I will play music from my recent album, Solo. Some pieces are composed. Some music will be completely improvised at this moment, and this is what I like mostly about playing alone and solo, because maybe I have a plan in my, you know, before backstage, before going on stage, but when I'm on stage, maybe I turn this completely around, because I always like to have some space for free improvisation and express myself in the moment. So maybe I go completely other direction. We will see.
Thank you very much, Tanya. Maybe you have one message for the public, the Mauritian public, which will come on Wednesday.
So yes, I'm very happy to be on this beautiful island and meet all these fantastic people here. I'm waiting for you on Wednesday, and I hope you enjoy the concert.